I'm Johnny Io, and in today's special report, I'm investigating gambling in WarSport. I'll be back in 15 seconds. Today's special report takes a close look at the controversial topic of gambling on the WarSport games. I'll be talking via satellite from Las Vegas to worldwide odds maker Ken Jennings. Also on today's report via satellite from his home in East Rutherford, New Jersey, popular bookmaker Louis Da Silva. The subject of gambling in WarSport is a sensitive topic that goes back to the creation of the games in 2020. Historically, any sport or game can or has had some kind of money wagering component added to it over time. Naturally, it didn't take long for sports enthusiasts to begin betting on the WarSport games. In this report, I'm going to explore the roots of this tradition in WarSport and its effects on the game itself. Welcome to this special report. My first question to both of you is, does gambling hurt the WarSport games?
Absolutely not. Gambling's been around since the beginning of time, and with the proper monitoring and the right rules in place, it can be a very fun and lucrative hobby. Now, of course, there are people who abuse gambling, but there are people who overdo a lot of things, and in today's society, it's easy to find a number of different ways to get help for problems such as gambling. There are definitely a lot worse things you could do.
No, this is great for the games. It keeps people interested. You learn the war fighters, you learn the countries, keeps you interested, and you can make a lot of money.
Ken, you failed to mention the games in your response and chose only to discuss the general public's perception, a response I expected from Vegas. You don't feel the integrity of the games can be compromised by gambling?
Well, of course, there could be some corruption in the ranks, so to speak. That has been known to happen from time to time. But for the most part, gambling is enjoyed by the consumer of WarSport, not the player.
Well, my next question to both of you is, what are some ways people place bets on WarSport?
Well, the oldest, most popular form is the kill spread, the ops, and the ranks.
And explain a little more about those.
Well, the kill spread is a bet that's made on country that loses by a predetermined killed in action margin. The ops is an overall points total bet, and the ranks is betting on which country comes in first, second, third, so on.
I see.
And there are other types of bets, too, that aren't as archaic as those, such as the WarSport Lottery and the WarSport Fantasy League.
Those don't even count. You don't have to do any research on it. There's no skill to pick numbers. You don't even have to know about the WarSport games
now, hold on
to
just a
play
second,
those.
Mr. Da Silva. You do have to know a great deal about the games, and especially the war fighters, if you're going to be placing a bet in a game like the WarSport Fantasy League. And I'll have you know that these games are licensed and fully endorsed by WarSport International.
You don't know what you're talking about. That's
Okay, all right, enough. Ken, you mentioned needing to know the war fighters to bet games like the WarSport Fantasy League. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, you can go from knowing nothing at all about WarSport to knowing a great deal about their countries, their war fighters, and their specialties in just a few years. The WarSport Fantasy League isn't about just playing as your own nation, but to build your own dream team of war fighters from all across the world. It's a great learning tool. It's fun for all ages, and it's really great to play with friends. It really gets you in the mindset of the games. And the kicker to this game is that you can win a substantial amount of money by playing.
Does the WarSport Fantasy League encourage minors to gamble? It seems it could be a gateway for gambling.
I'm sure there are unsanctioned fantasy leagues forming in parents' basements all around the world, but as for the official WarSport Fantasy League or the lottery or any other number of Las Vegas games, you must be 21 years or older to play.
Well, the same can't be said for you, can it, Louis? As a bookie, you're under no governmental control, rules or restrictions, or mandates of any kind. You could take a bet from a 12-year-old if you wanted to.
Now, I'll go saying things like that. I may be a bookie, but I do have morals. I typically deal with adults, but I'm an important part of the betting process. A simple go-between to keep things anonymous. Not like the Vegas computer system that knows everything about everybody. Me and guys like me, we keep it simple, and we pay on time. This is a model that's worked for over 100 years. Every town has one of us.
Well, I'd like to thank you both for being with me today. In closing, it's your own personal choice and freedom each of you share to decide whether to gamble on WarSport games or not. Although these betting games can be fun, always be aware of your limitations and be mindful of the problems that can arise from an addiction to gambling. You can also never be too careful when dealing with local bookmakers. Many of them have deep ties to organized crime and may be unscrupulous when dealing with your money. It is always a sure bet to place your money at betting institutions, such as Las Vegas casinos or at kiosks that are operated by WarSport International. I'm Johnny Io, and this has been your WarSport International News Special Report.